Mic check. What is good, you guys? It is Nico Castro, and if this is your first time on my YouTube channel, welcome. So good to have you here, and I'm just very, very grateful for your time. In this video, we're going to be answering some Q&As that were submitted through Instagram. And on the next vlog, just to give you a heads up, I'm going to be demonstrating and explaining my process on how I develop a move and how I develop a sequence of moves. And if you don't know what I do, and this is like really your first time seeing me, my name is Nico Castro, and I'm an artist and I specialize in dance, particularly the movement art, or second element of hip-hop, breaking. And I also DJ. So with those two things, I'm also an artistic director. So whether it's running a music collective or building a learning and educational platform called The Crossroads, I run those and I make stuff get done. I like to post and document my journey every single day, or as often as I can. And I'm trying to become more equipped with all the platforms across. So again, I'm just grateful that you're here. So thank you so much. I'm just gonna go down the list and try to fire these questions as fast as I can because I value your time. I'm gonna try to reduce the amount of edits, or I'm trying to do no edits at all. So please excuse me if you hear me stutter or if you hear my voice crack. You know what I'm saying. And all right, let's get into it. First question is from Samir_Zope. What made you get into DJing and how did you start? Pretty general question, and I love it. I started DJing and I first learned how to use turntables at 17 to 18 years old. One of my crewmates, his name is B-Boy Y-Rock, is one of my mentors, and he brought over his turntables before he moved to Hawaii for a year. And he said, just take care of these, and I did. In that time, I learned on records, and that was an adventure and super fun in itself. From then, I continued to pursue competitive breaking, so I stepped away from DJing, and it wasn't until I got into college, around 2015, 2016, I expressed to my girlfriend at the time that I was really, really interested in pursuing DJing as another form of career. Just because I felt like I always had the ear for music. I've always been into this generation of digging for music electronically. So one of my cousins and family friends, he was a hip-hop head from the heart. In 2010, he introduced me to Binary Star and showed me the song Honest Expression. And that was kind of a pivotal moment for me to realize that there's a huge difference between not just the hip-hop music, but like some real music versus the streamlined, assembly line, manufactured songs that are just put on the radio. And he basically opened my eyes to music, and he showed me digging for music through blogs, and I already had a little bit of experience on digging through music on LimeWire. I almost said SoundCloud. On LimeWire, and yeah, that was an interesting time, but I've always had the ear. I've had a lot of uncles that were into jam sessions with they were jack of all trades type of musicians, bass guitar, keyboard, piano, drums. They had the ear and the skill set for everything, so I was just always surrounded by it. So I've always had a deep appreciation for hearing the underlying tones within music, hearing the hidden bass lines, hearing the little trumpets, the little triangle that not many can typically just pick up. So I've always had the ear, and when I was around 19 years old, I did express to my girlfriend that I wanted to get into DJing. On maybe our anniversary, on some special occasion, she got me an entry-level DJ controller that happened to be a Newmark Mixtrack Pro 3, and that just changed everything for me. I really wanted to get into pushing my personal brand, whether that was Instagram and other platforms, but I really wanted to pursue this DJ thing. I imagined myself performing at Coachella, all the big stage stuff from the bedroom, and since then I still continue to love DJing and curating music and playing music at sessions, and whether that's hosting a residency at a local bar or a pub. The clubs don't really attract me, but if there's any way that I can provide value and provide a musical journey to people through the music that I like, then I'm more than happy to. The next question is by B-Boy Dre. How many years to your practice? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. I started training, I think he's talking about breaking, about 11 years ago when I was 12. At Break Boy Ashraf asked, how many times do you practice a day? In this period of time where we're supposed to stay inside, I'm practicing 2 to 3 times a day. Yeah. And at SK Jankrin says, did you ever hit a plateau in your training? And if do, how did you manage that? Yeah, by SK Jankin. Skajankin. I think I was about 16 to 17 years old when I hit my first plateau in training. And that was at the time when I first got my driver's license. So I was already braking for 4 years at the time. I was competing a lot. I was trying to compete every single weekend that I could. San Diego has multitudes of jams. Like, we have a very, very healthy and very populated braking scene. So I'm super grateful for that because I got a lot of battle experience early on. And around that time, there were a lot of open floor sessions. And the moment that I didn't just have to train by myself at home, I can go to sessions throughout the city all the time. I was doing it as often as I could. But I didn't realize that there's different types of training. There's conditioning, there's strength training, there's stretch training, there's recovery training, there's meditation training, there's actual technique training. There's so many different kinds. And I didn't understand that. So for 4 years straight, I was just going hard. That led to a lot of injuries, that led to a lot of pain, that led to a lot of frustration, that led to getting bored, and led to stagnant and plateaued results in battles. So once I went crazy enough, I think it was around 18 to 19 years old, during the time that I transitioned into college. I was, from the inability to balance academics and balance high-level training that I wanted to, let me see. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Because I couldn't balance those two things, I finally wrote in my journal and I mapped out different ways that I could train. And since I didn't have the same consistent practice flow and recovery flow that I did when I was living with my dad at home, I found these few things. I had a consistent way of improving, and I had a consistent formula that allowed me to improve pretty fast and pretty regularly. And I narrowed it down to a few things. And it came out to this formula, and I teach this. It came out to this formula, and I teach it in all my workshops. And it's called LAPSI. It's an acronym for LAPSI. L, which represents laboratory, A for application, P for practice, S for second nature, and I for influence or inspiration. At the time when I was in high school, I had, just like everyone else, in high school, within the 7 days out of the week, I dedicated a letter to each of those things. And I would put a gap in between for rest days, of course. And say my Monday through Sunday basis, I would start with Monday, and that would be my laboratory day. So whether I had 10 minutes to session, or I had 30 minutes, or I had 1 to 8 hours to session with breaks, of course, that was the day that I came up with a new concept, a new upgrade to a concept or move that I currently have. And that was that. It was just an easy and light day to maybe just focus on funk and grooves, getting ready for the week. But it was dedicated to being in the lab and finding at least one thing. Say it was Tuesday, that was the day where I would get together with either 1 to at most 3 crewmates, and that day would represent application. And on that application day, the content that I came up with the day before, I would apply that on the second day to the rest of my craft. So if it was some specific footwork pattern, some specific piece of content, I would apply that, and then I'd get feedback. And if I didn't have them with me and I was doing it by myself, I'd watch videos and I'd figure out what can I do in terms of creative variations. With this simple piece of footwork or this simple concept, could I travel forward? Could I travel backwards? Could I do it with one hand behind my back? Could I do it with one leg? Can I isolate this one part of my body? And basically, you've already covered 2 fields, which is laboratory and application. And at the time, for the third one, P, which represented practice, my practice days would either go on a Wednesday or Thursday, depending on which day I wanted to rest. But with that practice day, that was the day I basically went all out. I went all out and I trained hard. Whatever that new piece of content or new upgrade that you came up with the day before, if you're training on both Wednesday and Thursday, that was the day I just went hard in the paint on it. So then that can trickle down to Friday/Saturday if there's a jam, or depending on the difficulty of the move, slow grind, it'll stretch out to another week. But that would lead to S for second nature. So far it's laboratory, application, practice, and second nature. All the work that you did on Wednesday of grinding out the thing that you applied on Tuesday and you created on Monday, Saturday, it should be second nature, right? You trained it so hard that you don't have to think about it. You should have trained this sequence or this sequence of movements so much that you know it so well. And again, like I said, it might not be as applicable to like a double air flare or one-handed air flare, which will take time, but it gives you a template. And then the last letter is I, for inspiration or influence. So I would either spend time with family or spend time with my girlfriend afterwards and just just do human and enjoy the day, right? I was investing so much time into breaking, investing so much time into training, and I still do. So I really need that one day to decompress and really chill out. Realistically, I still end up working and I still end up training on that day, but I really take that time to make it clear that inspiration or influence day is my day to decompress, just so I'm ready to repeat the lapsy process and go back to laboratory the following Monday. And so there's no stress. And that was a pretty natural structure of events or structure of training themes that I followed throughout all of high school. And then I jotted it down in my freshman year of college in 2015. And then even my crewmate Corey, or Wyrock, he included this concept in his book, The Book of Five Ciphers. And that was published in 2015, so that concept is in there too. And then since then, I've just been following it, applying it, and that lapsy method can either apply to weeks, to months, if you're extremely dedicated, to years. But yeah, please take it and please upgrade it. I'd love to know. Let's get down to these questions. From the Angelo King, he asked, from your perspective, who's someone that was special at one thing and someone that was generally good with everything? It's a pretty open question, so I'm not too sure on whether we're talking about the breaking community or we're talking about life. Since breaking is a huge part of my lifestyle, one influential person that I know, I'm going to mix it together. One influential person that I know that is great at both things, that is particularly good at that one thing, and is generally good at everything, is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V. If you don't know who that is, he's genius. The one thing he's great at is deploying self-awareness and deploying that he's really, really amazing at business. From that, he utilized that one strength and that one skill to trickle into really, really harnessing everything else, whether that's building a personal brand, building an agency, having this desire to really understand that, I might, in this case from what he says, I might not become a player, an NFL player on the New York Jets, but being self-aware and knowing what he's good at, knowing what he's bad at, he can see himself way more being the owner of the New York Jets. So consuming that guy's content and really, really entrenching myself into his teachings just by consuming, that changed the game for me. He was the reason why I started the 365 project. If you don't know what that is, I started a 1-year project of documenting myself, tapping into my creative self every day for 365 days. And yeah, it was kind of like my debut album in the professional circuit of this breaking niche or demographic. So yeah, he's someone that's generally good at that one thing, and that trickles to being good at everything. Okay, next question is by Antman_002. What have you done to gain any motivation that's been lost for dance and self-health, etc.? I'll read that one more time. What have you done to gain any motivation that's been lost for dance, self-health, and etc.? If that sentence was restructured, I can't really understand it, but for the most part, from what I could pick at it, what have I done to gain any motivation that's been? I'm going to say, or assume that says, what have you done to gain any motivation that's been from loss for dance and self-health? Okay. So if you know me, or if you might know my origin story, from when I started breaking, that was also the time when I lost my grandpa and I lost my mom. And then years leading, I lost a lot of family members and friends due to just various reasons, right? Whether it was some crazy accident, or it was suicide, or it was a terminal illness. Death was just a reoccurring thing in my life. And I've been to so many funerals, and I'm sure there's people who've been to a lot more than I have. But in that time, I've been able to grow this sense of skin that I can navigate through grief. Doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. Going through grief and going through death and that anxiety portion and that sense of uncertainty, that'll never go away. That still hurts. But being able to foresee that our time's limited and that we're here and it's a long road and it's really up to us to, how do you even say that saying? Make it worth it? Make the most out of it. Thank you. Yeah, I've been able to do that, and dance has been the vessel that's allowed me to do that. Because of dance being a recurring theme around that time frame when all that transition happened, yeah, it was very, very empowering to me, particularly breaking, because I did try a popping class. I did try an urban choreography class. I couldn't pick up the routines fast enough. The popping was amazing, but it didn't provide the sensation and the rush and the physical demand that I wanted throughout breaking. I wanted to train like an athlete, but I still wanted to create at the highest capacity of an artist. And breaking was that one thing that allowed me to do it on my terms. And at the time, only having one parent and moving from school to school and encountering different demographics of kids and students that were either mean or unaccepting, having the opportunity to be really, really humbled of having a hobby or having a lifestyle that not really many other kids were doing because they were all enrolled in soccer or golf club, or you can kind of see the demographic just by saying golf club. And all that stuff, it was empowering because it was on my terms. I didn't have anyone telling me when to practice, how to practice, how much to practice. All failures and all success was determined by my effort put forth. So that's why breaking was my choice. I had that choice. You get what you give. And then in terms of self-health, breaking's physically demanding. If I'm gonna get hurt, it's on me. It's because of my training efforts. If I'm not training correctly, if I'm not taking the time to recover, it's my fault. So yeah, it goes all in one. It's a full circle. Thanks for that question. Next one is by Trial Multa. Do you have any training tips for those who have to work a physically and mentally demanding full-time job? I did that for 8 months when I decided to drop out of college to become a full-time artist. Of course, being an artist wasn't paying the bills yet. And I didn't really have anything, right? I had a skill set that could do every now and then gig performances, but I needed recurring money. So I knew that, especially knowing that grace period of paying student loans was coming up within like 8 months. So I worked, my girlfriend was in the coffee industry, and then she hooked me up. She got in contact with the owners of this family-owned coffee company based out of San Diego, and they gave me a full-time job. There were no benefits. It was a warehouse job, and I think it was minimum wage. It was minimum wage. And out of that job, there was a lot of carrying coffee, heavy bags of coffee beans, carrying heavy kegs, sealing plastic bags, so melting plastic and inhaling that, washing a lot of dishes, washing a lot of buckets, throwing out a lot of trash, doing a lot of trench work basically. And that was physically demanding because that was also the time in 2017, 2018, when I decided to do the 365-day project. So that means I was dancing every single day. And I wanted to dance and build at the highest level I possibly could to make it into this professional circuit. And with that, it was hard. There were some days where I was doing the standard 9 to 5. And of course, since it was a startup company, I was like one of the only people in the warehouse. One of the only 3 people in the warehouse. I'd get some help from like other employees, but there were a lot of times where it was just like, you gotta do it on your own. You gotta make this delivery, and you gotta go back, and you gotta wash all the dishes, and you gotta make sure that you close up. So it showed me a pretty big factor of time management. And I'm still working on time management to this day, but in that work capacity where there's so many things that, so many responsibilities where other people will be affected, work will be affected if you don't manage your time correctly, it was hard. And I was exhausted after every shift. And I still had to go home and train. So I might go running afterwards, and I'd go lift weights, and then I'd do technique training, or I'd still have like an ounce of energy, and I'd wake up early and I'd go for a run before the shift. It was hard. It hurt. I remember that feeling of like doing those early mornings and your eyes are just burning. But the moment I got my foot into the industry, working a production job in like the Pro Breaking Tour, and then helping produce the Silverback Open of 2018, and then just getting a few more gigs here and there. That was just like, that happened to be perfect timing. I eventually quit the job after month 8, but it was... So long story short, to get back to your question, I have huge empathy and I have huge understanding of how hard it is to mentally and physically stay afloat if you want to train. But I think the tactical strategy for this is you need to map out what it is that you want through training. Really. If you want to be a high-level competitive breaker or high-level competitive dancer or just someone at the highest capacity of your field, you have to determine that. You have to figure out your why. Once you can figure out your why, you can follow the next 2 steps. After you reflect, you got to strategize. Map out every single piece that's required to fulfilling your goal. And the third piece is execute relentlessly. That one's pretty straightforward. You just got to do the thing. Be present even when you're tired. You got to go, you got to go, you got to go. If training is just a recreational thing, it's just time management. But you got to, at the end, you got to figure out what is your why. You got to figure out how you want to do this. You got to map out everything. And I think once you have that clarity, you can tackle it. A lot of times, just like, even with finance that I'm coming to learn now, which I wish I had adopted years before, but it's not until this year I became very, very tight-knit and strict with my money management, is being completely clear and being in full understanding and full update of where your finances are at, or being fully updated at your status of something. Right? It's like a lot of us, and for me, I was very, very guilty of just ignoring my bank account. I was ignoring of checking what was in there, how much was in there. Especially if I'm doing freelance work, there's going to be socializing afterwards because you got a network. So you're probably going to get a coffee. You're probably going to get a dinner after the jam. You're probably going to get dinner after the gig. And imagine if you're just like denying looking at the bank account because you're worried that there's nothing in there, when in reality there is nothing in there. So map out and really understand what you want to do and what that destination is for how far you want to train. Hopefully that helps. Next question. By Bruno, You Are You, what is your warm-up routine? Light dancing. When I first started breaking, it was just get straight into it. Yeah. Then I would get hurt, and that's not fun. Light dancing. I like to start with light top rocks. Other than that, my morning routine is kind of like my warm-up routine for the day. I always start with like 30 minutes of cardio, and that's alternating. There's a fly. It's alternating between doing 25 rounds, circuit training rounds, very, very low to no risk. If you haven't seen the last video, it's circuit training for dancers, and I provide you my entire Tuesday, Thursday, basically my every other day training circuit to prepare myself and stay consistent and stay on point with my moves throughout the entire week. So if you want to check that out, that's more than open for you to check. But yeah, in the morning, I'll do 30 minutes of cardio, whether that's doing the 25 rounds, biking, cycling on a bike, or going for a jog, or a 30-minute jog, or doing sprints. Then after that, I do strength training and conditioning, making sure that my shoulders do not explode for the caliber of moves that I want to pursue, or my back, or my ankles, or my wrists don't explode. So making sure I take care of myself, and that's my warm-up for the day. And then shortly after that, I'll probably work on technique. figuring out or finding a new avenue, working on a new move, working on a new sequence. That's my warm-up routine for the day. So hopefully that helps. Next question is by Brad Biscocho. Do you ever get bored sessioning by yourself? Nope! I had the utmost gratitude and privilege to start breaking by myself. So since the beginning, I've been accustomed to it. I do have a lot of friends and a lot of peers that cannot session, they cannot create, they cannot train alone because they need a group. I'm of the opinion that all the work happens, all the magic happens by yourself when no one sees it. To be completely honest, if you've seen some of my Instagram videos or the regular updates that I do, all of those are happening after I practice. A lot of those clips are after I train. So those are just like my bonus rounds, and I just put those up. The moment that I start integrating the camera while I'm at practice, things get too messy, things feel too distracted, and it doesn't feel right. So I really make sure that I practice everything. I get my job done. I clock in. And the bonus after all of that is like, okay, let's document something. So yeah, hopefully that provides some context on how these videos come out. I don't like to record during practice. I always record after practice. Unless it's like some candid video and it's like, oh, this is a good time, this is a good song, let's record this. But for the most part, it's always after. I gotta get the job done. Next question is by Hazokamhat. Hazokamhat. How can be a good b-boy? Question mark. It goes back to the other one of the training tips. It's like you really gotta map out what you want. What's your definition of a good b-boy? Everyone's is different. Not everyone wants to be a professional competition tournament b-boy. I'm at this point in my career where if I had to step away from competitions, I'm totally okay with it. I don't have any self-fulfilling need to prove to myself or prove to others. Only reason why I want to do competitions at this point is because I want to serve others. I want to establish that I can compete, or establish that I am able to compete at the highest level I possibly can, I humanly can, so I can share all of those lessons and experiences at the highest level possible with other students and other peers and communities. So, yeah, how can be a good b-boy? Question mark. Really, you got to determine what you want out of breaking, because you don't have to be a tournament b-boy, you don't have to be a tournament b-girl. You can honestly find as much fulfillment, even more, just ciphering at your local jam, ciphering with your community, teaching others. So, yeah, determine that, and then map it out, and then execute relentlessly. Reflect, strategize, execute. Second and last question. What's your everyday fear and how do you cope with it? By Keep Dancing CC. Any of my loved ones getting hurt or dying is one of my biggest fears that I feel and fear every day. But the way I cope with it is just deploying gratitude. Really taking the time that time is limited and I gotta make this time worth it. I gotta find the balance between short-term goals and long-term goals, short-term habits, long-term habits. What's gonna contribute to the best? Do I really have to finish recording this video? Or can I get to dinner and spend time with family? But then there's also, I'm one video away. So it's a balance. But deploying gratitude is probably the biggest asset and the biggest tool to battle that fear. And it's probably one of the biggest things and greatest things you can do to gain that first step to finding success, right? It also depends on what success is defined for you, right? Is that money? Is that tangible items? Is that getting to a specific destination? Is that getting a specific result? Or is that just being happy, right? Or maybe it's not even being happy, but living a meaningful life. Really experiencing and really accepting all the emotions that come in with life. Sadness, anger, frustration, impatience, happiness. Yeah, that one, if I were to pick, living a meaningful life sounds like the best one, right? It's like you can be happy all the time, but I also want to feel everything else. I don't want to deny everything. I want to really understand. I feel like I can provide the most happiness, or I can live the happiest and provide the most love if I know the ends of the spectrum of every other thing. That's a good question. I think, that was actually all the questions. After that, it's mostly just people showing love, and I'm just very, very grateful. By Leo 10.2 says, come to Taiwan again. I would love to once Corona... I don't want to say it because of the YouTube algorithm. If you've made it this far into the video, please hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm and more of these videos, and the videos that I want to take this time to produce and just share with you and share my experience with you. They're going to come at you if you just hit that like button or if you hit subscribe. So again, I'm just super thankful that you're here. Next question. I'm not going to say that word because that'll not allow me to monetize this video in the future when I'm allowed to. I finally hit 1,000 subscribers, but I think I need 384 hours more of watch time, public watch time, until I can monetize my videos. So it's a long road, but I'm not going to mention all the controversial stuff that can cut that advantage or cut that opportunity. So thank you guys. The next one was by Lux or Lux Ibwostana. He says, just want to spread good vibes and stay safe. Dude, to you as well. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. By Fendrana Music, please be safe out there. And to you as well, my friend. To you as well. Other than that, it was just kind of like spam. Comment on my last post. Like, dude, I can, but it's like so reachy, you know? Another person said, come listen to my music. Okay. I think that's it. You guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Daily Spins vlog. On the next episode, I'm going to be demonstrating and articulating my process of how I develop a move or develop a sequence of moves. So just to give you a hint and give you a little idea right now, I've been spending the whole week, it's Thursday in San Diego right now. I don't know if I'm going to post this by tomorrow, Friday, but since Sunday for the past 4 days, I don't know, I didn't count, sorry, what? Okay, but in those last few days, I've been trying to combine a coffee grinder, going counterclockwise, and then doing an inside 1990. I want to get that combo, or gain the stability for that combo, so I can fly into a bunch of other stuff. I want to drop in an air chair, I want to throw an air flip the opposite way. For context, that move rotates in my opposite way, so it's really, really hard. But yeah, you'll see it in the next video. It's been a trip. Only thing that's annoying is that video is shot in vertical because I've been posting it on TikTok. You can see the real-time updates there, but yeah, I'll get it. And I'll still put it on here. I'll put blurry edges on the side so you can still see it and gain as much value. But thank you guys so much for your time. I am just so grateful. If you haven't hit the if you haven't hit the like button for the YouTube algorithm, I'd be so grateful for you. And just for last minute plugs, if you want real-time updates on what I do regularly or just like Instagram updates, you can find me at Nico Spins. I'm on TikTok sharing some quirky stuff, trying to provide educational and non-cheesy stuff for the reputation it has, and provide real educational and inspirational value on there through art and through the movement art and through DJing on TikTok. I just want to basically bring as much value as I can through TikTok. That place is growing so fast. If you want some tweets by me, whether I'm ranting or whether I'm giving a little spiel, I'm on Twitter at Nico Spins. You've made it to this YouTube, so I'm very, very grateful for you. And since I DJ, I put out mixes every single week with my music collective called Flavor Springs. So all the music that I like. So if you've seen my Instagram videos, I have a pretty particular taste in music, and if you want to listen to those, I have them in full length, all curated by me, mixed by me, no edits, and that's at Flavor Springs, Flavre Springs. You guys, thank you so much. This was the Daily Spins vlog. My name is Nico Castro, and I am so grateful for you. Peace.